Hello everyone, Kenty Tiger here with Bengali Engineering and Play. We are back in No Man's Sky and continuing on with the adventure. And part of the adventure was to steal what was in the depot here. And I thought I pushed the record button, was babbling away as if I pushed the record button, but didn't actually start recording. So, oops, sorry about that everyone. The battle that ensued was so there were three guys initially, and then two more showed up. And what I ended up doing is kind of using a little bit of, I don't really want to call it a cheat because it's real. When I first attacked everybody, got them all spun up, they instantly escalated to a 3 diamond type of category, and I brought my terrain editor, terrain manipulator out here and created this cave. Now, two of them followed me into the cave. I killed them. And then they went into the search mode because the two that did not know where I was, or sorry, the three that did not know where I was, remained outside. So I headed back out after the time had elapsed and they were back to normal. The force deactivated. So I went up and cleaned up everything, and then I turned to head south to get back on track, and then kind of looked over at the video recorder and saw, well, darn. So anyway, quick review there. So on we go. We are still on the quest. Let me go ahead and pull it up here. We're still on the quest to get our first milestone here to planetary zoology. And the way you do these particular things is you discover all of the species on a planet, and all is all. It really is all. So let's go to discoveries here. This is where we're at. We are 8 of 9 species. We are on a planet called Lemiculp 3. Minuzi Cecilia 5 is the system, and this is the first planet of that system that I've been to. So not terribly exciting, but I'm trying to go through and get all the milestones. They don't really play any role other than saying, yeah, I got that. It's actually not an achievement. Once you get it, it's on your Steam record forever. So I've played this enough that I actually have gotten all of the milestones in the past. So the only three things actually that I do not have achievement-wise. One of them is the get to the galactic core in I can't remember what they call it now. Basically extreme permadeath mode. That's what it was. So I haven't done that. Getting to the galactic center, of course, is a little bit tedious. So just playing through for that one, haven't really considered that yet. The other one is in survival mode. I'm in normal mode here, and normal mode is normal, pretty much. So everything behaves normally. Your resources are normal, and that sort of thing. The the survival mode is you have the enemies are more aggressive. Which enemies that are there are more aggressive, and you have less resources in the world. So it takes you a lot more energy to get to where you need to go. And then permadeath, of course, is that you can't die. If you die, it's like real life, you're dead. So basically, abandon that game and move on. So anyway, continuing on here, we're still, the goal is to find that last, the ninth of the ninth of the 9 species on this planet. And like many times, that does prove sometimes to be a challenge. I have done a lot of worlds where I'm done in a half hour, and then usually when I exceed 2 hours, then it is just perseverance at that point. And 9 times out of 10, when I am on a planet and I reach the 4-hour mark with typically 1 left, then it's time to abandon ship and move on. There's so much in this game to do, bouncing around between all the planets, that just eating up game time on a single planet where you can, I mean, if there were, you know, credits or something in it, then, so in this case, so 8 of 9 species discovered, it will cycle complete to retrieve 450 nanites. So nanites are the next currency. As you can see from the shot there, I have a shitload of those already. They're not hard to get. They are everywhere. It's just tedious. So every building you come across, you pick them up. There's 10 or 15. Every let's see if we can find any here. So here we go. Damaged machinery. So every damaged machinery, you're going to get 15. So they all add up. Eventually, you have 250,000. The units are really not difficult to get. It's persistence. And 2 of the things you can do is once you have your freighter, which is expensive, you're going to be 15 to 20 million for your freighter. Caster, I'm going to reload that. Scatter blaster, I'm going to reload that. And back to the mining. I've been playing with the freighters. Now, of course, the freighters were in the game the last time I played, and I found them to be wonderful. I like the fact that you could basically build your base, and it became your kind of mobile base. Where I've been having trouble, and this is in all the games that I have worked with so far, is the hirelings, the people that you hire to staff your stations, as in the workstations. I have not so far been able to get them to actually do anything. So I walk up to them and the quest marker says, you know, interact with this individual, and I do. Nothing happens. There's nothing there. And what I mean by nothing there is it's like I need to leave the worker alone, and your only option is leave. So I don't know what that particular game bug is. I don't know if that's something that I have done in the process of my mods or something. I really don't know. It very well could be one of the mods that is conflicting. That does happen on occasion. I think I'm just gonna go around. Upright. So I am not too far from abandoning this game because this world rather, because you're gonna visit many more than 10 worlds in the course of doing what you do. I've got I believe there are 5 planets. Let me yeah, so there's 5 planets, Gek. So waypoint on your galactic map. Huh. So this is you can see I've been through quite a few systems. So the Limitieux Azure, whatever that is, Limitieux Azure, was the first. So the Loberta Neshin was the planet that I originally landed on. 3 planets in the system, which is really 2 planets and a moon. So the Numa 96Z7 is actually a moon, frozen. So definitely just absolutely bitter cold. And the Hildfo Tau is a water planet. So actually not bad, other than it does have scalding rainstorms. So kind of one of those really interesting stuff. The Loberto Neshin is actually a hot planet. So interesting things there. So not a whole lot to speak of. Good starter systems. The water world, or mostly water, of the Hildfo Tau was a great place to set up my first base. And then I marched on through. I ended up in this system and went straight on through, and actually ended up at the Lakuch Yunki, whatever that is. Ended up there next. The other 2, they're the Tiborga and Flash B Smo 4. I hit by virtue of the galactic map makes absolutely no sense to me. I find it to be a game-breaking kind of a thing, that it just makes absolutely no sense. The manipulation of how you get to where you go. So I have, in most every game I've played, which is to say most every time I have played this game, I have had to resort to going onto the internet and figuring out, okay, what do all the buttons do? What are the buttons here that actually make this work? And so I did that again, and finally managed to get myself back to quote-unquote home, which was that Limitieux Azure, and I dismantled my base that I had there. I do have a freighter. I have currently, I think, 23 ships, 23 frigates in my fleet, which is just pricey. So once you have a shit ton of money, which you can see, I definitely have a shit ton of money up there, then you can do all that. And I do that by creating things. So I, I, I want to call it stackables. And what I mean by stackables is one thing leads to another, leads to another. For example, ferrite dust, which you can get just about anywhere. And then you can refine that into pure ferrite. And then you can refine that again into magnetic ferrite. And ultimately, it's the cost of, if you have a portable refiner, then it's the fuel to run it, which you can collect in the world, so it is free. What you're putting through the refiner is what you collect in the world, so it is free. When you turn that into something, it's just the fuel in the refiner to make it run. If you have a base and you have built the large refiner or the medium refiner, both of those run off the base power, so you don't need to put fuel in them. So basically it's all these materials that you've collected in the world. You might have your entire inventory full of them. You convert them all, and then ultimately you sell those stacked items. And again, what I mean by stacked is you have taken something that was free and you refined it, which made it more valuable. You refined it again, making it even more valuable, and then you sell your entire inventory of it. And you can make quite a bit of funding doing that. And a lot of these resources are refinable. Carbon becomes concentrated carbon, I think. But you can, so here's ferrite dust, so you collect, all that stuff. Everything is for sale. It may be the proverbial chump change, but it is ultimately for sale. So you fill up your inventory, you go on and sell it all. You fill up your inventory again, you sell it all, and you keep doing that, and eventually you have several million. You keep capitalizing on that while you're working through some other basic things in the game, and eventually you just have a boatload of money in the bank. And at that point, you can, focus on some other niceties of life. One of the things that I focus on is ship. One of the things that is a freebie, which is to say it is absolutely free. Game time, it's pricey in game time, it's pricey in resources, but you can find crashed ships, crashed vessels, and so you take those crashed vessels and you actually fix them, and off you go. You take all the materials, everything that you have earned, and usually the thing about the crash ships is that they are, you may not like what they look like, but that's not a big deal because you can always find a ship. There are about 50-something different ships in the game. Now, most of you who have played this game are saying, okay, Tiger, you're full of shit. No. There are about 50 different variants of ships in the game. There are about a bazillion different color schemes for each one of those. So, understanding what the seeds really are about, a particular seed, again, this is kind of file manipulation at its finest, but in the end, you can change your vessel to anything that you want. The seeds are readily published out there on the internet, so they're there for the freighters, for all the different types of vessels, whether you're an explorer, whether you're a trader. My most favorite ship which is tiger orange and black, probably no surprise to anybody, is a fighter. Now the downside to it being a fighter is it does not have the condensed cargo space. Floating crystal. I saw those on the first planet, but I never manipulated one. I never got to see what it was about because I did not actually have the mechanism to do that. And look at those. So I don't know what these are. So I needed the advanced mining laser to do that. I did not have it at the time. So floating crystal, rare metal elements. Bye. Rare metal elements. So tetra cobalt. So I destabilized sodium. Tetra cobalt, which you get with the
weather warning. Incoming
storm. So there's a rare metal element. That's not very descriptive. Destabilized sodium. That's kind of cool. And tetra cobalt, which we're going to go ahead and put that in there. Destabilized, we're going to put that right there, and this guy we'll put there. I don't think we'll see too many more of those. Okay, continuing on. So there are plenty of quests in this game. For, again, those of you who played this originally, there wasn't a whole lot of quests per se. There were the milestones, so once you achieved the milestones, then it was not really any big deal. There was this one mysterious, way of, mystery to the center of the universe, and then that was kind of it. So they have awakenings now. There are several what I want to call main quest lines that kind of repeat, and you can do some interesting things. The guilds are, I think, still a work in progress. So I have not yet had any success with the guilds. But there are job boards, there are things that you can do for people, and I think the use of your frigate fleets to complete things is also gets you standing. So it appears as though all of those things work out pretty well. Now, one of the things I did when I first hired, now the frigates to hire are a bit expensive. They're going to be anywhere from 1.5 million to my all-time high, which was 6.7 million. It was a very nice looking ship, and the price is commensurate to the skill of the crew. So if you have a crew with a lot of experience, they are going to be really pricey. So this is kind of one of those medium level games, or medium stage game where you actually do have a lot of money in the bank, because the frigates are expensive. Now, as you find them, I would say the 1.6, 1.7 million frigates are actually really good, because yes, they have little problems here and there. They don't have a lot of experience, true, but they're cheap once you own them. Once they're members of your fleet, you get to keep them forever until they're dead. Occasionally they might have problems, And of course, I'm still discovering a lot about the system, but you send them out on expeditions, and of course, you want to tailor the expedition according to. Let me try that again. You want to tailor the fleet of ships that you send according to the expedition. So obviously, you're not going to send. On a general adventure, you're not going to send an industrial ship. Likewise, you're not going to send traders and combat vessels on a mining expedition. So as you hire the different frigates, then you will discover what their talents are, and it's published. They let you know that, okay, this is what we're all about, and that sort of thing. So you can see what you have. So I try and get a spattering of different vessels. There's I think 5 different kinds of vessels. So you have an explorer, which is basically a scientific vessel. You have a trader. You have an industrial ship, which is basically a miner. A combat vessel, which is really there to protect the other members of the fleet. And then you have what's called support vessels, which are providing supplies and that sort of thing. I don't know what else they do as far as functionality goes. Effectively, you fund their fuel. Okay, so you have bought them already. So they are members of your fleet. They warp in with your frigate if they are, your freighter. So another scan here. So they are, they travel around. And once you buy them, they don't cost you anything else other than potentially repair parts and fuel. So you do fund their fuel. So there are 3 different fuels, which is frigate fuel, and you have a 50-ton variety, a 100-ton variety, and a 200-ton variety. So once you make those, then you keep as much in storage as you can, and you just throw that on your freighter. You throw those on your freighter, and when you send out an expedition, they take the fuel that they need with them, so they have it, and then they go through the expedition, and they will keep in touch with you. You can manage them to a certain degree over the course of the expedition there's a command, like command console room or something like that, and so you have a command console room. I'm going to call it that, even though I let me look. Fleet command room, and it's kind of, you can kind of see what it looks like here. So there's a bed, there's a table, and then the screen there in the center. And what this room does is that you can interact with a expedition. And it is 1 room per expedition. I thought it was 1 room for all, but no, it's 1 room per expedition. So as you get more and more frigates, then you would need more and more rooms. So the other thing that I have looked at, you can have up to 5 frigates in an expedition. And again, you design your expedition intelligently. If it is a mining type expedition, then having mining crafts there, so industrial crafts there, are obviously the bread and butter for that expedition. But you might have others, so I always run a support ship with an expedition. If they're longer expeditions, then I always run a combat vessel with them. So at first, you just hire everybody you can. My understanding is there is a 30 ship limit. So your fleet can actually only be 31 ships, your freighter, and your 30 frigates. So your freighter, your command, your capital ship, and your oh, look at this, and your frigates. So sending 5 ships out at any given time means that you would have up to 6 expeditions at a time. Still all green. Truly believe that I am at the verge of super oxide crystal. And chloride lattice and rare metal element. So, the only other thing that I could do, which might actually be reasonably intelligent, is to fly to a different location and set down. So one of the things that if you do any reading online about methods and practices of other players, one of the things that they'll do is if you get stuck on that last one, pick up, go to the complete opposite side of the planet. Of course, that's a little bit of a guesstimate there, and then try again. And you know, you might end up being successful. In this case, I'm sitting at about. Okay, so I was about an hour and a half prior to the first recording, and then there was the hour and 20 minutes or so where you all joined me, and now we are at about 33 minutes into this. So we're talking about 3.5 hours already on this planet with the one creature left. So I'm reaching that magic 4-hour mark where it's just not practical to keep going on this. There's nothing new really to discover. I have discovered everything. I believe I have discovered everything. So as I've wandered through the world, I find these new plants and new minerals and that sort of thing. And okay, is that a blue rock or is that just the thing that's blue next to it? Yeah, it's just a blue thing next to it. So, you know, you have all of these things: carbon, crystal, condensed carbon. So. Another little tidbit is the freighters are actually going somewhere, and they do change directions. But if you can get up into the air and follow them, then you might actually end up at a trading post, which is always a good thing, because then you can unload everything. And I think you can actually mark some of the various waypoints on planets, but they're temporary. So that was one of the things. I was playing the game earlier with my son. So I want to call it multiplayer from the perspective of it is indeed it has come a long ways. So this is sodium nitride, which is the upper version of sodium. Yep, sodium nitrate. He was in the world with me. He did get in fact, one of the achievements that I have not yet gotten is visit somebody else's base. I think the only way I can do that is actually, then I don't have a waypoint to it anymore, is go back to the original place where his base was. And because you don't really have GPS coordinates, that can be a little bit of a challenge. Okay. So that's sitting right in between those two rocks. It would be impossible to see. Alright. So what I'm going to do is go down here to this little semi-flat area and recall my ship, which is actually a really cool feature that they have now built into the game. There is my vessel, there is my ship right there in my nose. Back off just a little bit so it doesn't land on my head. And there she is. My orange stripy tiger. So minor settlement, this was where I started. So it's amazing. I can be, 40 minutes of land time, which actually is, 3 hours of hiking around, and then take 2 minutes to get back to where I started in the flight. So all the interesting things. I think I might have marched across one of those. Oh, freighter. So the trick here is you watch it, it's blue, it's blue, it's blue. It will eventually turn green as it goes under my nose. Green. Hit X, which will land you if you're using a pad, as in a controller. I happen to be using an Xbox 360 controller because it integrates very nicely. X, which will jump you out. It also does a save. And return to the life form. So this is this was Discovery here. So this is where the guy was. In fact, he's still kind of here. If you see these, it is actually a weapon. So loop of fire. So you can do. So this has 21 slots. Mine has a couple more. And might technology merchant. So you can buy blueprints and materials from this guy. And these guys exist in many different places. Okay, so trade nanite clusters for blueprints. We're going to start out there. And unfortunately, I own all of these. Yep. So back in, and we're going to do the other, which is purchase components. So we have a lot of choices here. Technology module is for repairs. Hermetic seal is repairs. Antimatter housing. Obviously, if you're creating antimatter, you do need that now. Ultimately, the antimatter housing, once you have antimatter, you can actually put it in this housing, and it becomes a warp core, warp something. Oxygen filter, obviously, is a nice thing to have. And we have cobalt mirror. I'm not sure what those are used for. Navigation data actually are, they took the place of the hack chip, or bypass chip, sorry, the bypass chip. That is renamed a new icon called navigation data. Salvage technology is a good thing. That again, you can take that and turn it into blueprints. Drop pod coordinate data. I'm actually going to go ahead and get these for my son because he is still upgrading his suit. Salvaged technology. I really don't need these, and they are hideously expensive, but I don't really care. I have nothing but money to spend. Navigation data, I have plenty of those, so I'm not really worried about that. Sodium dioxide. So not a whole lot here. Oh, and I put them in the Starship inventory. I didn't want to do that, but that's all right. And then exit. So, you know, taking advantage of these guys here is always a good thing. Now, this is green, but I don't know if it will actually let me in the space. Oh, this is just another exit. So, what I typically do is, I know there is a save point here. It's just a matter of figuring out where it is. I typically do a save before I get back into... Oh, so I walk out in the middle of the store. Good job. Back here. That way I save before I actually climb into my spacecraft. So, save. And swampland. So in this case, we have 8 of 9 species discovered. We had a bunch here discovered. And we have very few places that we have discovered here, mostly because I've just been traveling and we didn't really have a whole lot of locations. So even though we've been traveling quite a bit, oh well. Alright, so we're going to leap up onto the platform here, and then jump into the Starcraft, and off we go. So, not... The goal here is we're going to come back but for right now, I'm gonna head up here. I want to possibly recruit, so I see a fleet of vessels up here. There's actually, it looks like 4 freighter fleets here, and there are 4 that I can recruit. So I'm going to head towards them for that purpose. In fact, this is the closer one, so I'm going to go over here. See if I can drive my ship. Now, when you get close to them, you get the incoming message, and then you answer that communication, which will enter you into a dialogue. So these are GEC personnel, so lots of traders. In this case, inspect the frigate. And then, so this is 1.5. So they have no combat capability. They have an industrial specialist, so this is basically a mining vessel, which is what it says up there at the top. So they have 1, and I don't know versus what. So they do go up in rank as they go. So this is at 25%. They have some successful encounters. Definitely no stowaways. I'm not sure what that means. They do have an industrial specialist. So that industrial specialist is 25 or 15. Sorry, 15 plus. So that is clearly one of the reasons that that they have that 19. But they do not have any trade capability, or rather, they are not experienced in trade, and they do not have any combat capability. So this one is going to be obviously a little cheaper, but I hire everybody. Equal opportunity frigate hiring. So what I'm trying to do is see where that other frigate was. I thought there were 5. Maybe there were 4. All right. So I'm going to head over to what I think is the next closer, which is just on the other side here. So we're going to thrust around here and then take another peek. So we have 1 there. Yeah, and it looks like, so I think this one is the closest one. Message, answer the message, a similar class of ship. Inspect. And industrial and trade, so they do have some trade capability, but ultimately it's a mining vessel. So ideally it would be to find a few more that are trade capable vessels. So here's another one. Inspect. So here we have a little bit of combat capability. It is a science vessel, so it is inherently an exploration vessel. So they have a exploration specialist on board. There can do a little bit of industrial and a little bit of trade, so not a bad deal. But 2.3 million credits, almost 2.4 million.
Hostile scan detected.
All right. Answer the hostile scan. And I always refuse because I'm fairly well armed.
Hostile ships approaching.
Another 2 fleets over there. If I run out, I see 2 frigates at least over there. Alright, so I see one more frigate marker here that is on top, so we'll go and see what they're all about. That or I have reached the maximum number and or you're standing with the guy has increased. Alright, let's see if this milestone starships. What's going on there, but so be it. Alright, so we're gonna go over here. This one first. Or this one first. Incoming message. Exploration. They have some combat capability, very little, but it is a science vessel. Alright, so there's frigate, there's another frigate. So, over towards this. Exploration or explorers. So I may have reached my 30. So there's the one fleet, a couple more fleets over here. Usually the frigates are pretty obvious. So let me get over here close to this fleet. And orient, I don't actually see that one there, maybe. Yeah, I may have reached. Huh, alright, well. Okay, so return to the life form. Let's go ahead and zoom through here. All these guys. Return to the life form. Thrusting. All right. This is a quest complete, and they give you a reward 91 anti-clusters. So your standing with the Bikeen has increased, even though I'm talking to the guy. I'm not sure how that works, but okay. Now, all these guys, this is one of the ways to find ships, is to actually come to these trade platforms. You see there's a variety of them. So here's a pretty, actually neat looking ship. So you interact with them, and you have the choice of buying some of their cargo, selling some of your cargo to them, as well as making an offer on the ship. So sell items, buy items. And just for fun, we'll go ahead and see what they have. So 15 slots out of 48. There's actually two different, you have general, you have technology. So this one only has two, and some of the, so this is a fighter. It only has technology. And only has general, whereas you find some of the other ships that actually are an explorer or a cargo class, and they will actually have a cargo section. So like this one that's coming in right now probably has a cargo section. This one should have a cargo. So let's go ahead and look at this one. So So we'll go right to make an offer and see what it has. So 24 slots out of 48. So not too bad at all. And so this one is a shuttle. Damage 2%. So it has 24 slots available to it. So not too bad. General 24. But you know, you can see what it's got. So it has those available. And no damage, but obviously if you go in and compare inventories between the two ships, which is mine and this one, then you'll actually get to see the price. But they are pretty pricey, typical. But they are, you know, they are in good repair. So let's go ahead and see what this big craft here is. This looks more like an exploration type of a ship, so it should have a cargo inventory. Oh, and I'm full of shit again. So 37 slots though. So 37 out of 48. So definitely some nice stuff here. Pulse engine, launch thruster, which they all have. Hyperdrive. And 5 slots for technology alone. Alright, so this is a hauler, but it does not have any. Maybe vessels do not have a cargo inventory. Maybe I am completely incorrect in that. There's one more of a similar class. So this is a great way to find ships. 29 slots. And 4 slots. So again, lots of things on the Galactic Trade Network, but even more when it comes to some of these other folks. So because I don't really need to trade, I'm going to go ahead and talk to some of these people. So if you want to learn the language, then 10 units is great. Geknip. In this case, I'm going to barter 1,000 units is 1,000 units, and they will typically give me something reasonable in return. So I got a Gek relic, which isn't a bad thing at all. Okay, so talk to them, great, yippee yay, and move on to the next one, mining overseer. Mining's kitchen. So I might be able to hire this one. Accept. Yep. So I do have an agricultural terminal on my freighter. So good stopping in here. I've talked to this guy. This was the guy that I talked to originally. Did not talk to this guy yet. Target outside local system. Consult galaxy map. Emissary met 45 aliens. So 6 of 10 in this case. Alright. Hireling. Don't know what they do. Gek worker has admired your mining skills. Trader. Okay, this could be fun because it takes you to somewhere. Offers directions to a place of interest. Which is all fine. Drop pod detected. Okay, I don't really need that, but okay, so I've talked to that one. So this one in the corner is the last one to communicate with. Underling. Friend, hello. I have been awake. Yes, not asleep. Beginning to return to their slumber. Alright. Alright. So, a drop pod is all fine and dandy. We might as well go there. Not going to do me any good particularly, but might as well go look. So, great place to find ships, a great place to trade, to sell your wares, to buy things that you might otherwise not see. So let's go ahead and demonstrate that. So trading opportunity, the GEC like to trade. So we're going to do the buy items. Starship launch fuel, obviously, a lot of good stuff there. GEC NIP, they all like that. I'm not sure what exactly it is, but hey, it's so why not? We'll go ahead. Right button. So they actually have only the one thing. Tritium used. I'm trying to remember what it's used for now. It will actually say, oh, pulse engines. Yeah, fuel the pulse engine. So what used to be like plutonium, we now use tritium. Fungal mold is, trading. Foul-smelling goop. Fungal mold. Toxic climate and the aid of hydroponics. So, nothing really of interest here. That's a big ship. Interesting colors. I'm curious to see. Okay, so we're going to go into buy first, just because I want to see. Launch fuel, GEC NIP. Selenium instead of the other thing, so GEC NIP. Go ahead and buy this because I think I already have a bunch of relics. And they only now have the one. But let's go ahead and see what we got as far as the ship goes. So here's a 30 slot. The other one was like a 36 slot. See what they have for technologies. 6 slots, but you'd have to get them turned on, which you can't really anyway. Just for fun, I'm going to go into negotiate price because I want to see how much it is. So 12 million. And this is the screen where I would take all of the stuff, which my ship is on this side here, and put it into the stuff on the other side. So in this case, I'm going to decline because obviously trade in. So another interesting thing that is I find helpful. So let's say you're up here. And you want to talk with both of those ships. If you stand in between, you can actually make a little bit of So I'm standing in between the two. I have the X comes up for me, the interact, uh, but I am standing just about the center. So if there is someone here, they will not be able to take off. So they will stay there until you have done everything that you finish. This guy, obviously, because you're talking with him, cannot take off. So it's one of those interesting things that I want to call it a game bug. Not really a game bug, but probably an embedded safety feature. But so that's the way to keep a couple ships on the hook. I think I talked about that. All right, so. So I have one marker over here that is a drop pod 7 minutes away by foot. Obviously, go and the drop pod. Can't actually do anything with the drop pod because my exosuit is already fully enhanced. So I'm glad they put these little ramps on here. They changed the model here. So, oh, exosuit upgrade. Okay, and then I'm maxed out, so, darn. It's just reflection. Looks like there was like a ship, piece of a shuttle or something in there. Alright, so the good news is I think that one, the marker, I think dropped off. Yes, it did. Alright, so if we punch the right button, follow Starship automatic guidance. Located a source of warp fuel. Follow the automatic guidance systems to locate it. So I built an agricultural terminal. I hired a farmer. Now it's a matter of returning to the farmer. Now what I've discovered is I can interact with him, but nothing happens. And the expanding the base one is the same. I've returned to this particular overseer a bunch of times and nothing happens. So it's kind of one of those really strange things. This one I can only do when I get to a surface that actually has hostile life forms. I don't like I don't like killing creatures that are inherently benign. Don't like doing that. So anyway, I can my intention is to really go to the other side of the planet, but let me just let me travel for a minute or two, and so you know what? No, we're not. We're not gonna go. So. So now, one of the things I could do, so this is my freighter, and this is one of the largest freighters in the game. I really, really like this. The only, if I had any wish at all, it would be to have different colors, but I have not researched the seeds to actually figure out what the different color schemes are. So anyway, let me go ahead and summon. You can see it coming in, and we have all of the frigates that come with her. So definitely a lot of ships. How's that for a fleet? So we're going to go ahead and go inside, or actually let me to virtually a stop. You can see what my fleet looks like as I do a very, very slow orbit around, and we'll actually let you see exactly how big the capital ship is. Pretty good sized. About. So you can see she's a pretty ship. She's a beautiful ship. I'm gonna go around. The other nice thing about, so there are 9 landing bays in a freighter, and there could be really any number of ships coming or going at any given time. And because of that, you have trade opportunities right here. So here's a ship that is coming in. We have, in fact, 3 ships on this side, and you can walk up and attempt to buy any of these ships. If you build a base and you build a landing pad, you will have guests. If your ship is not the one sitting on the pad, and you will have the same trade opportunities as well as the possibility of purchasing a ship. Now the ship types vary from system to system, as do obviously we have the Gek, the Viking, and the Korvax. So my ship, for example, is staffed by Korvax. Okay, so here's one of, and I don't know, calibrating feed command, debrief, so it is done. Gathered Gek nip. So I found that these are pretty lucrative. So there's a 39,000, a 27,000, a 34,000, not to mention the different things that you might get, 31,000, 28,000, purchased cheap goods sold for 28, sold at 151%, 38,000. So this was a okay, and so 264,000 credits, and I did nothing, absolutely nothing. I put the fleet together as intelligently as I could, and off I go. Okay, so this one is not in use. This was my first station here, so it will have someone in it. So fleet manage. Debrief means it's done. They are debriefing you on what took place. So tetracobalt, grantine by 2, re-latticed arc crystal. So you can get some really neat stuff here. Super oxide crystal, tetracobalt, and so while this one did not yield anything monetary, it was still you know, very lucrative in terms of the things that were returned. So another thing to keep in mind is your freighter inventory is where all this stuff will go. So if your freighter inventory is full, then it will kick you out of the debrief, and you won't be able to complete the debrief until that is all done. So right now, all of my vessels are back. There is no one out. I put a save point right here on the ship because there is also a galactic trade terminal there. So this is the Admiral. So this was the Admiral that I originally hired. So they have changed things. So Admiral Duvey. And the navigator, who stands here in the middle, is the one who ultimately helps you dispatch your fleets. So, few potential expeditions. So we have 5. We have 5 available expeditions. This is my fleet that you can see here. So Voyage of Discovery. So it will tell you the number of light years as well as the difficulty rating for it. And the length of time. So typically when they're longer expedition lengths, then you have a bit more difficulty, but that's not always the case. So let's just go right down the list here. Let's select this one. It's going to, so this is an expedition. So its focus is, in this case, exploration. So we want the majority of the fleet. Now we can assign 5 ships. So my thoughts here are we have exploration ships, and so I am going to send I don't really want to send the most experienced ships. So I'm going to go ahead and pick this one. How many ships do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I think we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 9 per. Whoa, all of those are exploration. Okay, so what I would like to do, and this may be a bit of a folly, but I'm going to unassign that one. So I'm going to look at my junior most vessels. So I think we have the 3 16s, 2 16s. What do we have here? So I'm going to send a support, combat. So this will be my support. This will be my combat, and then I'm going to do. Oops. Garrett's hammer would probably have been a better idea for the support, but that's okay. And I'm going to take these two because I want them to gain in experience. And then there's a 17, and I'm going to take the 17, 1, and 2. So this is the entire group. So we have a fairly junior exploration group, we have a support vessel, and we have a combat ship. So we should be able to work this through. Required is 100 tons of fuel, which is sitting in the inventory. So they will take that as they go. And launch. We have more to launch. In fact, we're going to go ahead and launch all 5 of the exploration, or all 5 expeditions. So deposit reclamation. So most likely this is about mining. So it's industrial, which is mining. So expedition assembly. So let's we're focusing on, so we do need a support ship, but let's go ahead and let's go ahead and give the calculator a chance, as this really is not anything too crazy. Then let's go ahead and put that one, let me see what's on the first page here. No industrial, so we will have to stick with, let's take the next juniors. So that and that. So we have a support craft and then industrial. All right. And I don't have any upgrades to give them, so I'm not even sure how to do those particular things. We'll have to learn how to do that. Okay, off they go. Another expedition. So diplomacy might be trade. So focus trade. We'll get our traders here. So the problem with trade is I've only got 4 traders. So let's bring a support craft, and just because we're going to go ahead and assign a exploration, and then we'll do trade, and let's see what we got here. I don't want to put more than 2 trades, but let's go ahead and send a exploration vessel with that. So trade, a couple exploration, they'll get some experience as they go, and send them off. We have a general expedition that we will send our last. We have 1 more combatant. So this is our balanced expedition here. We have 1 more trade. So we will go ahead and So we have combat. I want to send a support vessel, and we're going to do combat support. Let's go exploration and industrial. So fairly well-rounded. The only thing we're missing is trade in this particular group, and that's because I want to send the 2 trades that I have left onto the actual trade mission, which is this one here. So trade, obviously we're going to put our 2 trade ships in, which is trade and trade. So we will go ahead and I think go to some of our the Pride of Death. There's an interesting name. So trade, industrial, and let's see if I do not have any more support craft. So I could probably use less exploration ships. So let's go 1 industrial ship. Simply because. And launch expedition. Alright. And we are out of groups. So we still have one more. We have one more group of ships that we could send out. So I need more trade ships. I definitely need more combat ships. So what I really should do is dismiss a couple of the explorer ships and add more trade and a couple more combat. Ideally would be to have 6 support craft and 6 combat craft, and then a spattering of industrial so industrial and trade and explorers making up the latter. So it would be nice to be able to have, you know, at least 2 groups of industrial out at a time, which would be 6, and 2 groups of explorers out at a time, and then 2 groups of trade. So I'm not sure how many that would work out, but you know, ultimately even numbers of all of those, so I could actually put together an intelligent fleet for each group. So always have a support craft, always have a combat craft, and then the other 3 ships would then be tailored to that specific purpose. So that would be good. So I'll have to work on that over time. Okay, let me go ahead and save, simply because, and off I go. Oh, you know what? Something I was going to do was check to see so over here is where I have all of my specialists. So they are laid out. So we have the weapon specialist, which I do not have yet. We have the agricultural specialist here. Hello. Mining overseer. Yep. So I should let the GEC get on with its business, and that's the only thing that any of these do. So. And this one is the same. This is my ultimately overseer. And so clearly something's broken. Previous base item cache, which didn't work either. So while I'm in the freighter, I don't know if this is normal for the freighters or not. So obviously the bridge here, I put 2 rooms here. This passage already, this passage existed, so that's how you got this existed. I put my first command room here, and then I put the teleporter here. No luck working with the teleporter. So some of this looks a little bit weird, and then there are 2 more command rooms here, and the other side is a mirror. So you can see that passage goes quite a ways down there. Likewise, the passage goes quite a ways down here. So this is actually as far side to side as can fit. So this was literally down to the end of the usable space. Side to side. So just a quick roll here, and that's all the way to the end. So this is all usable space right now. To my left is all usable space. I went all the way down until I could not go anymore, and then put the bulkhead in. Oh darn. And then obviously to the other side. So this is, I believe I'm headed over to the port side of the ship at this point. So the nose of the ship should be to my right. And then back. So all the space now to, again, my left here is all usable space. I can do anything I want with it. The original space of the ship was down, this passage didn't actually exist, so this is the back side of my front passage. So I put this passage in using kind of minimalistic, so that there's the original passage that was there, and then I made this area. So this particular area, you can see that back bulkhead there was where it was. Up to about where this terminal is. Well, actually it was up to where this terminal was the front of this room. So there were passages that came to the center here, and then there was a little bit of cargo space. So it was actually a pretty nominal space. So it was about this big. So from where I'm standing to the bulkhead back here was the original size of the space, and there were passages that went from here all the way through. And so I changed things a little bit. I made it a lot bigger space, and then added some things. So one of the things that is available at all the different bases are these big storage things, and the only way I could make them fit was to actually put a passage in here and then put these things on the back of the passage. They don't really fit well, so they don't seem to integrate. But these are these big storage containers. You have 10 storage containers. Then there are 4 here. So 0, 1, 2, and 3 are here. These are, for sake of better terminology, shared containers. So you can put these containers, all 10 of them, on every base that you build. And they are shared space. So literally, container 0 is the same for every base that you build. So if I access base 1 on planet X, and I access storage unit 0, then it has a certain inventory. If I come to this vessel, access storage unit 0, that inventory is there. So it's a shared inventory between all the containers that are container 0 in all of your different bases. And you can put one iteration of all of those containers in every base you build. So basically you have access to your storage no matter where you are, which is nice. One of the other things I've found is that you can transfer to and from these containers no matter where you are. So there is a teleport system apparently that's built into the game, so you can access your materials no matter where you are, which is really nice. So I happen to put 4 of them in here. The only way I could do it was to put them on the back of this passage, which turned out pretty cool. I thought like you're walking into a little vault here, so kind of a security area. So I really like that. So 0, 1, 2, and 3 are here. There is the 4 major disciplines here of the workstations. So I have the overseer, which is this one here, and now the farming overseer, and I can do nothing else. That's as far as I have been able to do anything there, so I don't have the other 2. I cannot build the exocraft workstation here, which kind of makes sense because you can't drive an exocraft around in space, so that's a base only kind of a thing. So the only other thing I wanted to say, so we marched around the entire outside so you could see how big of a space, one deck, how big of a space this really was. I have actually put in a ladder going up, which is right here. So I did it just to test, so we have the same space in size all the way around one deck up. And we have one more deck. And more deck. I stopped. Obviously, I could have continued on. In fact, just for fun, let us go ahead and see. Whoa. So we really start to lag a lot here, and I don't know why that is. It just is only during the building portion. So there, I'm gonna put this here. So again, this is only during building, is when this is this way. So there's the 2 walkways, so there's this one here and this one here. this one in the center would be the next up. So we are on the third deck up from where we started out. And again, this is mostly just to see how many levels we can go. So I think we are on the 4th level now. Okay, I'm going to have to disable this so I can actually get my bearings here again. All right, so all right, and this was not the one that I intended to have here. So I'm going to players inside the object. Okay. So up. Right. That's the one I wanted in the center. Ladders going up. So there's one ladder up. Difficult to control. And I think that's enough. See if it actually went up. Yes, it did. Alright, so that one. Change to, yeah, so we're getting really laggy. And then change back, and that should have connected in the other one. And we'll escape, and then we get our game back. So, so top deck. Next deck down, so there is 2 decks, 3 decks, 4 decks, oh, 5 decks, 6 decks, deck. So 7 decks tall So, obviously, we can go to an amazing level. Um, so, 7 decks, uh, pretty amazing. So, definitely a lot of space. um, Given the sheer size of the freighter, I guess that's not unexpected. So we're going to do a quick save here. Oh, that's why. Which is a jump in the ship and then jump right back out of the ship, which creates a restore point. And then out we go. Critical damage. Crew is incapable of performing maintenance. Recall. Which is unfortunate, but so let me go over here. I have not dealt with a damaged ship yet, but oh, I see. Ability up here is limited. I know there is a landing pad. So this is really neat that they have, you know, put this much energy into things. The question is, do I have all the materials? Damaged cargo pod. Do I have the materials I need? Tiny motor. Platinum. Okay, I do have platinum.
Technology prepared.
chamber. Silver? Thankfully, I have that too. Alright, so let me see. So, kill creatures, staffing on the base, agricultural research, return to the farmer, return to the base, and I can't do anything with either one of those. So, kill creatures. So, 2 hours. Do I know this planet? Yes. So, the question is... Alright, I'm gonna go to the other side of this planet. Which is to swing around to the dark side here. And So I'm going to do an initial scan. So I should effectively be on the other side of the planet here. Alright, I jumped out of the ship, so that was I'm in a GEC system, so all of these folks are GEC. Okay. Structure entered. Corvax transmission tower. It's GEC technology, but okay. Alright. Corvax transmission tower. Okay, 2345. So the trick here is detecting the pattern. So 23, 45, 89, 177. So, so 23 plus what is 45? So let me pull my calculator out here. So that was an arbitrary mathematical thing. Sorry, I'm sidetracked here for half a second. Calculator. So 23 minus 45, which is backwards. So 22. So 22 plus 23 equals 45. So 89 minus 45. Oops. Not sure what the pattern is here. So 89 minus 45 equals 44. Oh, let me try that again. 89 minus 45 equals 44, so one less. So 23 plus 22 equals 45. So 44 plus 45 is 89. So 89 plus 88 should equal 177. So 89 plus 88 equals 177. So 177 plus 176 equals 353, which should be the number we want. Distress signal. So this should be a downship. So we may, well, we won't because, oh, is that a freeze? That's a freeze. All right. That was a little strange. So, we're, darn, come out. Oh, toxic. I've not seen one. Okay, that's just a little shelter. Okay, so junk. However, all of these things throughout the game, they're kind of... There we go. This is what they look like. So you see this little thing whirring in the background. Extract nanites. So 5 nanite clusters. Not very many, but it's free. Out the door. Zoom over here. Come into here. And sometimes there's a table right here inside the door, which will do various things. So shelters. So these buildings are great if you need to get out of the shelter. Yeah, out of the shelter. There we go. Out of the weather to let your systems recover, which is to say all of your different shielding systems. So let me go into technology and replenish all of my different systems.
Technology recharge. Technology recharge. Technology recharge. Technology recharge. Technology recharge.
Okay, I think that's all of them. Right, and then back outside into the store. Alright, so we are going to do a save game here. We are theoretically on the other side of the planet. Sorry, that's the save. That's the lamp that I was headed to. And having saved, this is probably the perfect place for me to break because I'm an hour, more than an hour over where I should be for you folks. So, thank you so much for watching. This is Kenty Tiger signing off, and we'll catch you next time.